Bukele 2024 election is today. And I'm predicting just absolute landslide, just dunking LeBron James.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Halving Report podcast. Today, I have two good friends that I met in Zonte, Bitcoin Beach, Beach Breaker Hotel. We have LedgerJedi. Folks should be familiar with Jonah, and we also have Average Orange that we had on the episode about lump summing. The lump sum. I should almost call you lump sum.
The most viewed podcast on the Halving Report, except for the cultist hexagon one.
No, I think we're actually beyond the cultist hex.
Oh, you beat the cultist, man. Imagine, dude.
That's it.
Okay, come on.
Man, appreciate it, man.
Thank you guys for doing this. Thanks for taking the time to do this today, fellas.
Thanks for having me, man. It's exciting. Hey, it's a pleasure to be back. How have you been over in cold Canada? It's nice and warm here.
Yeah, no, freezing my ass off every day, scraping the snow and ice off my car every morning. You know how that goes. But I want to say congratulations to you, Jonah. You've since gotten engaged since I've seen you. So congrats, buddy. And
congrats.
Thank you, man. Thank you, bro. I really, I owe it all to God. The reality is I'm a retard that got ran over by a truck, and I'm really fortunate to have like the life that I have right now. I don't quite understand why I do, but I'm very thankful. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And just kind of, opening up to you, starting with you, Jonah, how's your role or perspective within the Bitcoin ecosystem evolved, especially considering the changes in the market, the Bitcoin ETF approval?
Well, I wish that it would go up. And it will. That's the reality. It will. And these things take time. Supply shocks take time. But if you look at the numbers, these ETFs are buying, what is it? It's got to be something along the lines of like 4 to 5x the amount of supply that's being mined every day, which is about to get cut in half in a couple of months. So I think we're on track to do really well. And as far as, just the Bitcoin culture over here in El Salvador, I got to say, man, I've had a whole new perspective kind of develop, which is I stopped being like, do you accept Bitcoin? Do you accept Bitcoin? Accept Bitcoin right now? And trying to shove it down their throats because I started to realize that is counterproductive. And the reality is what you actually want to do is just build relationships with them. And so I started to build relationships with some of these local people and just hanging out with them, trying to learn Spanish with them, going on motorcycle rides with them through the mountains. It's freaking beautiful here in El Salvador. And man, they started asking me about Bitcoin. I've got the Shiba wallet. How do I buy Bitcoin? And that really struck a light in me. I was like, oh, this is really the real way to go about making the adoption grow here in El Salvador. So it's been really exciting. It's been a whole big blast here. And, I just got this new place, and it's got the whole Bitcoin theme, man. I'm wearing the orange shirt, but I got this nice orange roof here, and I got a nice orange painting over there. So, we're doing the Bitcoin deal over here.
Yeah, man, it's good to see you, continue to be all in on your Bitcoin journey. But yeah, like that's awesome to have a good connection like you, boots on the ground in El Salvador. I've been pumping nothing but El Salvador content since I left there, man. It's the place to be for anybody in this space, I feel like.
Yeah, and hey, go follow LedgerJedi on Instagram or Twitter and hit me up if you want to come down here. I can take you on some tours to the Bitcoin mining facility at the volcano. Show you El Zonte, some of the places that accept Bitcoin, what's going on, boots on the ground, where the locals are actually being educated and learning about Bitcoin. I got that on lock for anybody who's interested to come on down here. And because you don't want to trust what you see online. Is El Salvador really what you're seeing online? You want to verify. That's what we do as Bitcoiners. And so that's what I'm here for. Don't Trust, Verify Tour. Hit me up.
So you're now competing directly with Bitcoin Ronnie tours.
Actually, the interesting thing is Ronnie actually takes people on tours and he just links up with me. So they pay Ronnie, and then Ronnie goes ahead and brings them to me, and they pay me as well.
Sounds like everybody wins. All
That's
right,
a joke.
Yes. Let's pivot to. I was going through your white paper the other day, and I had trying to break it down the best I can. But it talks about strategy for low risk monetization of Bitcoin mining through intraday trading, electricity trading. Because the first time I talked to you, this is kind of very abstract in my mind. So I was wondering if you can kind of give us another breakdown of the core concept of the strategy for our listeners here.
Yes, please.
Sure. I want to start with my perspective on the ETFs because that's what you asked, Jonah. First, my brief overview is they just put the Trojan horse through the gates. BlackRock pulled the Trojan horse through the gates and relax, enjoy, wait until we are inside and then let the party start. Concerning the white paper about trading, it basically boils down to when you mine, you get Bitcoin. And you have a certain amount of Bitcoin that you could convert to fiat. And you basically say, okay, let's say I get $60 per hour that I mine with my facility in Bitcoin. So you try to acquire your electricity for cheaper than $60 because you want to make a profit. So in electricity markets, the trading has different prices before you start with delivery. So my strategy is to take advantage of these price fluctuations before you get the electricity to make mining more profitable. So if you get $60 per hour Bitcoin mined, you can acquire it for $50. It's already profitable. You have $10 profit. And then, one moment, Jonah. And then if the price of electricity goes to $70, you can sell the electricity and make more profit than from mining. So basically, you always make profit because you have the asset, the Bitcoin mining facility, to always take delivery of the electricity you buy. So you're not forced to close the position like a normal trader would do.
Okay, question. So I think probably a lot of listeners and myself as well, don't have a fundamental understanding of what really, trading of energy is. And could you give a little bit of context to how that works and what that is so that maybe I could understand the concept better?
Sure. In electricity grids, you have a huge challenge. And the huge challenge is that you always have to balance supply and demand. Because if you don't balance supply and demand, the frequency in the electricity grid, which is like the balance of supply and demand, because you imagine it like a lake. You have streams of rivers going into it. This is the input, that's the supply. And you have a downstream facility like a dam that releases the water. That is the demand, right? So you have supply and demand. And if you have too much supply, the lake overflows. And if you have not enough supply, the lake drops. And that is the frequency in the electricity grid. It's like the level of the lake going up and down. And you have to keep it in a certain window before the electricity grid shuts down to protect everyone from damaging the electricity grid. So basically what electricity trading is doing is trying to match supply and demand via trading. Because when you have a power plant, you have certain cost of production of energy, and you only sell your electricity if you can sell it for more money than your cost of production. And if the price of electricity drops below that threshold, you shut down or spoil down your electricity plant and take away supply. So this is what electricity trading does. It keeps supply and demand in electricity in balance.
Oh, wow. That's absolutely mind-blowing. So basically, because you can't store enough energy, right? So they can't just keep producing it because they can't store it all. Is that the first layer that I need to understand?
I mean, there is storage, but people underestimate, in my experience, underestimate the amount of energy that needs to be stored. It's a huge, it's like a huge amount of energy, and our means of storage can only take a certain amount of electricity.
It's not sufficient.
And then you need to balance the grid somehow.
So it needs to be a constant flow because you need to basically use it directly because we can't store enough energy to actually disperse for later.
Right.
Okay. Totally get that.
And also you have other challenges because the electricity grid, it's physically limited. You can't transport electricity from El Salvador to China.
Correct.
So also this is why the trading zones are divided into smaller zones, so that you always match supply and demand in the specific zone.
Huh. So that's absolutely mind blowing. So then, what you're going in to go do with what you're trying to accomplish with the Bitcoin mining is basically, it sounds like there's markets that are selling the energy at a certain price based on that current supply and demand, and then how does it work for you to be able to keep that energy and sell it at a higher price later? Because if you can't store the energy.
Okay, so imagine you run a solar farm and you produce solar energy. So you cannot directly control how much energy you supply because you're dependent on the sun. But you have to sell this energy one day before you produce the energy to reduce your risk. And then you do a weather forecast, how much sun will it be at 6 o'clock this evening, and sell this energy in advance. So if the sun doesn't shine as much as you thought, you have to buy back the electricity that you sold. And this drives up prices because you cannot deliver your solar energy. So this is the point where a coal-fired power plant or gas-fired power plant comes in and substitutes this energy. Normally it's a gas-fired plant because they are much more flexible. That's also why they're considered complementary technologies to solar and wind.
Wow. Okay. So now I just had the brain blast. So basically what you're doing is, let's just use the solar farm because it's simple. They've got a solar farm and they're expecting a huge, bright, sunny day and they're going to have so much electricity. So they're going to sell it for tomorrow for cheap, selling it in advance. You're like, oh, that's a cheap price. I'm not expecting it to be as sunny as they think. So you go in, you buy up that energy for tomorrow. Then the cloudy day comes and they don't get as much energy as they expected. So they have to buy back more energy, which drives up the price of the energy. So then you can sell that energy back into the market at that higher price if you needed to.
Exactly.
Wow. Or you could use that cheap energy to mine the Bitcoin, and it's just whichever one is more profitable.
If the sun shines, I use the sun energy to mine Bitcoin. If the sun doesn't shine, I sell back the energy to stabilize the grid.
Wow.
And shut down my miner.
And therefore, you are reducing your downside essentially to almost zero?
Zero, yeah.
Wow.
My only downside would be if I couldn't buy electricity because it's always more expensive than mining Bitcoin. But that basically the renewable energies enable this strategy.
Interesting. And that's obviously really big in Europe, is the renewable energies.
Can you repeat? I didn't get that.
The renewable energies are obviously what is really big in Europe, correct? They don't have as much oil and et cetera, correct?
Yeah, and it's also getting big in other countries. I mean, it's the cheapest form of energy to produce, but it's also the most unflexible form of energy to produce. And we're bringing the flexibility into the cheapest form of energy to make cheap energy flexible.
Wow. Mind blown. I love that. What a genius, huh?
So what does, I guess I'm still trying to fathom this idea a little bit. What does energy, like buying and selling, trading look like? Like, is that like you're on an exchange?
Insert the fucking 40 screens he's got.
Yeah.
It's not 40, it's 16. It's 16.
16?
You mean how it looks like in practice? Like hands-on?
Yeah.
All right, so you have a time window, let's say the hour from 6 to 7, and you have energy, which is denominated in megawatt. And since you're trading the megawatt for 1 hour, which is from 6 to 7, it's 1 megawatt hour. So basically there are prices per megawatt in the electricity market. And what you do is look at these prices. And my job personally is I have like multiple power plants as assets. And I know all the cost of production of those power plants. And once the price of electricity goes above the price of production, I sell the energy of the power plant because then it's profitable. I send a new schedule to the power plant, and the power plant then runs up the electricity. And vice versa, if the price drops below the power plant being profitable, I buy back the electricity and shut down the power plant. And this I do for every time window for 24 hours of the
How many
holiday.
power plants you got?
You mean different assets?
Yeah.
It depends, because we're not directly in the market. I'm responsible for like 180 megawatt, which is like a medium town. But also we have other customers that call and use our service. And this runs down to 4.5 million customers.
Big.
Now, another thing in your white paper is the distinction between asset-backed trading and speculative proprietary trading. How does this distinction play a crucial role in the stability and profitability of your strategy?
Yeah, the speculative trading basically would be like you don't have a power plant to produce electricity, and you sell electricity without the means to produce it. And then you try to buy it back cheaper. But if it doesn't get cheaper, then you basically have a problem because you cannot deliver the electricity. That is speculative trading. And asset-backed trading is, I only sell electricity that I can produce.
Wow.
So asset-backed trading comes without risk because you can always deliver on your promise.
Interesting.
It's like being a miner, right? Bitcoin miner is also asset-backed in two ways, basically, which is kind of mindfuck. Because he has the asset to take the electricity, and he also can probably short Bitcoin because he can always deliver Bitcoin. It's also asset-backed.
Explain that. I'm not very smart, and I got run over by a truck. So a miner, he could short the Bitcoin, but he could also deliver the Bitcoin?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when you short, you basically sell something that you don't have.
Correct.
Right? And then you you hope that the price drops and you can buy it back cheaper. So a Bitcoin miner can short Bitcoin and then deliver on the short position by not buying back the Bitcoin, but by mining the Bitcoin to close the short position.
Wow.
So this is called hedging, which Bitcoin miners do a lot in my understanding. To stabilize for risks and price fluctuations.
Can I borrow a few brain cells, my man?
I personally don't think I'm, I think I'm into this topic. There are other topics that I probably would lean back because I know you guys know more about.
How
cool Trudeau is. Brad is an absolute expert in that.
I mean, he is doing the pod, right? So he knows how to do this shit and giving us a platform. So yeah, I mean, society blossoms by specialized individuals working together.
100%.
Well, that's the thing. Like for me, and here in in Canada, for instance, like the Conservative Party doesn't really want to develop renewable energies as aggressive or make all these incentive systems. So, as much as like people like to rip me, I'm a Trudeau supporter. I just feel like the more left I go, the more green energy is going to be produced here at home in Canada. Like, what are your thoughts around that?
Well, the renewable is just one sector that you could use Bitcoin mining. Let's go the conservative route. Let's say, okay, in Germany it's conservative to be for nuclear power, which is kind of crazy, but let's say, okay, you have nuclear power. The same problem, you have energy that is not flexible because you cannot shut down a nuclear power plant. You still have to regulate the nuclear power plant, so that boils down to installing Bitcoin miners near the nuclear power plant, and once there's a surplus of energy, you turn on the Bitcoin miner to balance the grid. Same thing with coal-fired power plant. You can't shut down a coal-fired power plant. Once there is excess energy, you need a Bitcoin miner. So it all comes down. Bitcoin miner gives you increased flexibility, and the energy grid needs flexibility to function. That's all. You can apply it to, it doesn't matter like which route you go, you always end up with Bitcoin mining if you want like a stable energy grid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Such an interesting relationship with Bitcoin and electricity. Like we talk about, people talk about other types of cryptocurrencies and the way that they're backed. Ethereum used to be proof of work, and then they went to proof of stake. Like I know we all know there is no second best, but like are there any like cryptocurrencies out there using proof of work that has any sort of substantial network outside of Bitcoin? Nothing you guys have seen?
If there is, It's not
Well,
my
just look at the
task.
hash rate. Look at the hash rate. No, the answer is no.
Well,
Strictly, there is
play.
not.
Let's play devil's advocate. All right. I personally think Bitcoin is most suited to the use cases I just put out because of the proof of work fundamentals that are going on.
Liquidity.
Yeah, liquidity, other stuff. If there would be another currency, then it's the task of the people in believing in this currency or trusting in that currency to do shit in real life and do work. And then they can prove it to me. But I personally feel 100% confident in Bitcoin. I think I understand it on the level that I can confidently say how it will interfere with energy markets and that it's a benefit for us all. And if some if some other guy thinks his currency is better, then okay, outperform me, challenge accepted. Let's bring it on.
Start your energy balancing company with that cryptocurrency and we will compete, right?
Right, and let the market decide.
Orange, I do have a question for you. Can you just project into the future? Because you just said something. I feel confident that I could explain how Bitcoin's going to impact the energy grid, et cetera, et cetera. Could you project maybe 10, 15 years to what that could look like and how that could be beneficial and give like some benefits and what that could look like?
I would divide it between state actors and company actors. Mm-hmm. I start with the company actor because it's simpler. The company actor basically would have a line of production where the company produces a certain product for a certain price. And I think that every company will be much more integrated into energy markets because I personally think it will go down more this renewable energy route. Maybe not as politically steered, but also because it basically is cheaper if you can balance it. So once you, as a company, are able to balance the electricity prices by Bitcoin mining, you can be more competitive. So I think every company needs some sort of Bitcoin mining to use this flexibility in
every energy company, correct?
Every company. Every company that uses energy to produce something.
Okay.
Because they always have to make the decision, is it cheaper to produce, is it more profitable to produce my product, let's say cars, or is it more profitable to do Bitcoin mining? Wow. Because in the end, every company wants to increase their profit. So it is not like tied to the specific product. And Bitcoin mining is like you plug it in and you go. And you need some maintenance company and access to energy markets. And that's basically my idea, what I want. That's my end game of where my company that's like starting to go right now will go, like providing the service to everyone that wants to stay competitive internationally.
So if I could just jump in as devil's advocate, I'm just trying to kind of envision what you're saying there with every company. Like, wouldn't there be other reasons for companies to want to stay operational other than their costs? Like if you have a service that you provide to people all the time, and maybe for a short period of time, it might not be profitable, but you don't want to forego all that services to your customers in lieu of Bitcoin mining, because then your customers are going to be dependent on whatever service you had. Like, is that a consideration at all?
Yeah, sure. That's what I meant by what is more profitable. Because if you lose customers, it's not more profitable. Okay. But like maybe one good example, let's say you produce cars and you have your car production line that cannot be stopped, right? You cannot totally stop it because then it needs a lot of cost and energy and maintenance to start it up again. But you basically maybe can run it a bit slower and then save energy for Bitcoin mining. For example, if you don't need to produce 2,000 cars in a week, maybe you only have orders for 1,000 cars, but you still have the contract for taking delivery of the electricity, which you have to. Then you just turn down the means of production a bit to slow it down and mine Bitcoin instead and still have the same profitability as if you produce 2,000 cars.
So they have an order for 1,000 cars. They have already pre-purchased the electricity to produce 2,000 cars, and they're thinking, oh, we've got all this extra electricity. We could produce a surplus of cars, or we could mine the Bitcoin, but mining the Bitcoin is going to net us more net profit. So we're going to use that extra 1,000 cars worth of energy towards Bitcoin mining to therefore increase our profit margins. Am I understanding?
Exactly. And the third option would be if the electricity price increased in this period, you obviously would sell the electricity. and still run your production slower.
Man, dude, this guy Orange is gonna be rich.
Jonah, are you sure you got hit by a truck, man? You seem to catch it on to these things pretty quickly.
Dude, I'm really lucky. No, I just I'm good at listening. Yeah, I'm good at listening. That's about it, though.
Can I pivot a little bit? You were talking about Bukele and what's happened politically there in El Salvador. If I could, I think you've probably been paying attention more than we have on this front, Jonah. If you mind giving us a breakdown of what's occurred there.
Oh, my man, today is election day, Sunday, February 4th. It is a landslide victory. That is my prediction, probably by a margin of like he's going to get around 90% of the votes. Here's the reality, man. Cinco Mas, Bukele is the best president in the world. You know that because the tyrannical fake media, the lying media, is putting out hit pieces as of last week. George Soros-backed companies are putting out these media hit pieces like from the Economist where they say, Bukele is protecting the citizens of El Salvador from crime, but who will protect them from him? Think about that for a minute. Think about that headline. Just like understand that. Nayib Bukele is protecting citizens from the violent, rapist, criminal gangsters that have murdered tens of thousands of people. Okay, but who's going to protect them from him? Bro, he has made, if you talk to any local, which I have here, they love Bukele. They love him. He took this country from being dead to making it alive. It was a rebirth. And it's really cool how El Salvador is, the translation is the savior. And kind of, it's got that story of Jesus where it's like death to rebirth. Whether you believe in it or not, it's like it's obviously a unique mystical story. And the story of El Salvador coming from this emerging market into blossoming into what could be a booming economy is the same story of death to life. And Bukele is the source of that. I call him the philosopher king, and that's really what he is. He's a Bitcoiner. And the reality is, man, he completely transformed this country. So to circle back to your question of what's going on here, he's going to win an absolute landslide. And what is going to occur after today is phase two. Phase one of his presidency from 2019 was getting rid of the violence, stopping the chaos, stopping the violence, putting these criminals in jail. He built a mega prison that has got state-of-the-art technology with x-ray scanners and all this crazy stuff you can't even imagine, AI. And he locked up all the criminals. That's phase one, get rid of it. And then phase two is called reintegration, which is building up the infrastructure, giving people the opportunities to have not just creature comforts, but the opportunities to actually grow their economic value as an individual. Firstly, by becoming a safe country so they're not being extorted by the gangsters so they can actually start businesses. But actually, for example, simple things like building the highways. We don't have highways here, okay? Putting in postal boxes, okay? We talked about that before. That's a big deal, man. We need those. We need some freaking mailboxes, okay? We need trash cans. We've got trash trucks that come pick up all the trash, but people put it in the driveway. They don't have, garbage cans. So this whole phase is going to be this reintegration and building this up so it's not like it's already not having the violence and the chaos and the corruption of a third world country. So we're like maybe a world two, but this is what is going to bring us into a first world country where we have the things and the infrastructure that actually make it be able to function properly. And things move really fast here, man. The people are hungry for more. They're hungry for growth. They're hungry for innovation. And if you look at the IQs of people here, it's one of the lowest in the world. The company that did the study on the IQs here, it's like some of the lowest in the world. But it's interesting because you go out and talk to these people and they don't seem dumb. But somehow when you test their IQ, they are, I forget the exact number, but it's like 3 points below what in America would be considered like legally retarded. And I don't mean that offensive way, but that's like what the study showed. Like people would get off of a crime in America for having that IQ for like mental retardation. That's like serious. Now, when you talk to these people, though, they're not dumb. They're very intelligent people, but they have not had the infrastructure and the opportunities and the education to be able to learn arithmetic, writing, literature, et cetera, et cetera. And so that is all coming in this phase too. And another thing that I'm really excited about is every high schooler starting this year in El Salvador is going to be learning about Bitcoin. It's like Bitcoin 101. Where else in the world are they teaching you about economics and like the thing that allows commerce globally? It's not just Bitcoin. It's the history of money and where Bitcoin fits into that for the future play going forward. So there's a lot of really great stuff. Bukele 2024 election is today. I'm predicting a just absolute landslide, just dunking LeBron James.
When do we expect the results from the election?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Is that a mechanical keyboard?
That is a mechanical keyboard. I was Googling to see when we'll find out when the election is.
Okay.
So it sounded like a typewriter, actually.
I got the clicky keyboard, okay? Here, I'll just show you right here. It's nice. It's got the Bitcoin orange. But yeah, it's really clicky for sure.
I just had to smile when you talked about the IQ thing, because it seemed to me like the real life bell curve meme of Bitcoin,
Yeah,
And,
that's funny, man. It's exactly what it is.
Well, thanks again for doing this, fellas. I'd love to, do this every so often and just catch up with both what you guys are doing and, just learn Bitcoin, man. That's what I'm here for.
Hey, thanks for having us. Let's catch up soon.